This is Sex and Science Hour with Brian Sovereign and Dr. Stephanie Murphy. Get your freak on.
Welcome to Sex and Science Hour.
Oh, this is great.
I'm so excited to be there. Here, there, everywhere. This is our first show, and we're so glad that you've joined us today. I am, of course, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and I've got with me Brian Sovereign, the golden stallion of the tech world, as we call him on his other podcast, Sovereign Tech. And we're starting up a brand new show, and what better way to get people to download our podcast than to put sex in the name of it? That's
it's an
kind
easy
of a time-tested trick, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, you put sex in it, and I mean, sex sells, right? And so you put that in, and people are just going to be all over it.
Yeah, exactly.
But we are going to actually talk about sex, right? I mean, that's why I'm here.
We are going to talk about sex and science and technology.
Oh, fantastic.
The point of the show is to be entertaining, and it's going to be a short show, so we're going to do our best to move really quickly with the content.
Right.
Just want to add a quick note before we start. We are part of the Let's Talk Bitcoin network of podcasts, so very glad to be on the Let's Talk Bitcoin network. And we have a website, right? sexandsciencehour.com.
Yeah, where you can look everything up. And
it's barely a website at the moment, but, keep checking back. I'm sure it'll develop as time goes on.
It'll grow with the show.
It will grow
and
with
the
show.
network.
And we also have an email address, and we are going to have a listener email segment. So if you want to ask us relationship questions or send us story tips about sex and science or technology or Bitcoin or whatever you want, you can email us at show@sexandsciencehour.com.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, so let's get right into the content. Brian, did you know that if you want to 3D print an organ, this is now scarily close to being possible? Not really scary, actually. This isn't like a scary technology.
This feels very exciting. I got to know more.
Yeah, definitely. So there has been apparently a little bit of a scientific breakthrough this week where scientists discovered, kind of by accident, like a lot of scientific discoveries happen this way, just serendipitously.
Kind of like an apple falling on someone's head?
Yes, indeed. Kind of like that. Except this time, some blood cells fell into an acid bath, a tube of acid.
Well, that's almost as good as discovering gravity, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a little strange, but apparently the scientists just kind of discovered by accident that if you put just regular blood cells from an adult into an acid bath, they can become pluripotent, which means they can become stem cells that can become other types of tissues.
Okay, now I'm wrong. It blows away gravity. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the reason this is really cool is because, if you have stem cells that can become different types of tissues and you can get those from an adult's blood, that means that you could basically give a blood sample and then use that to 3D print a new organ, potentially.
So I could go to the Red Cross or, donate blood, and that could get turned into eventually an organ of some kind.
Skip the Red Cross. They kind of discriminate against gay people, but
good point.
You could probably do that
at a doctor's office. So this doesn't work on gay blood?
It works on gay blood.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I mean, you could probably do this at a regular doctor's office or hospital, or maybe you could even do that in your own lab, in your own home or something. It doesn't have to be a doctor.
Wait a minute. Does it work on bisexual blood?
There's only one way to find out. Really.
We're going to have to find out.
We're going to have to try it, yeah.
All right. For science.
For science, indeed. So, yeah, I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, obviously, but this basically makes it a lot easier to turn an adult's blood into potentially stem cells that could be used to make other tissues. This is kind of like one of the holy grails of medicine recently, where everybody's been trying to figure out a really easy way to make stem cells out of out of some tissue that an adult can spare,
right.
like a sample of blood or skin or whatever.
Well, a lot of people, they'll ask me a lot of times, besides Bitcoin, what's the biggest thing going on in technology right now? And I think it's 3D printing. I think they're, in fact, they may be equidistant in importance.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the biomedical uses for 3D printing. Like, there was a guy who had a skull injury and he lost part of his skull, and they actually 3D printed a scaffold and took some of his bone stem cells and they kind of grew into the scaffold over time, so it was able to replace this weird shaped piece of bone. And I think we could do that pretty easily now. Like, it seems like the technology is almost there to be able to print pieces of bones and even large patches of skin potentially.
Sure.
Or at least like temporary patches that could kind of turn into skin as your skin grows into it, for a burn victim or something like that. So I think it's really cool. And I'm excited about what we'll be able to 3D print. Maybe eyes and ears are next, or hearts or something like that. So if you sell on local Bitcoins, you might be a felon.
For selling on local Bitcoins.
Unfortunately. What happened this week was there were a couple of people who were doing trades on local Bitcoins, which is a website that lets you meet people to be able to buy and sell Bitcoins in your local area.
I mean, were they meeting hookers? What was going on here?
No, they weren't, but almost as bad. They were meeting undercover federal agents.
Oh, well, all right. So they're government hookers then.
That's way worse. Yes, I have nothing against hookers.
No, I have nothing against them either. Please.
But yeah, these guys apparently got entrapped. Basically, they got caught in sting operations where there were government agents, and actually maybe they weren't federal. I think they might have belonged to the state of Florida where they were charged. But basically, these guys did deals with the Bitcoin sellers on local Bitcoins, and they said, yeah, I'd like to buy these Bitcoins from you, and by the way, I'm going to be using them to go on tour and buy a bunch of stolen credit card numbers. You still want to sell them to me, right? And unfortunately, the sellers didn't pick up on that, and they got charged with money laundering. And apparently, the thing that I learned when I was reading about this was there's a law in Florida that says you can't exchange more than $300 worth of currency in a year, or you are operating as an unlicensed money transmitter, which is at least a low-grade felony. So these laws are designed so that everybody breaks them. And of course, there's this book out there called 3 Felonies a Day.
Right, which essentially says that everybody commits at least 3 felonies a day.
Yeah, and it's not hard to do that with a law like that. But probably every state has some law like that where you can't exchange more than $300, $500 worth of currency in a year. That's crazy. I mean, if you bought somebody's unused gift card or something like that, that would probably be considered breaking that law. If your friend visits from Canada and you exchange dollars for the Canadian dollars, that would probably be breaking that law. It's just, they're written so that everybody is a criminal. And I think it's really important to draw a distinction between just the simple act of moving money around or exchanging one type of money for a different type of money, and just really distinguish that from an actual crime. Because to me, a crime has a victim, someone who gets hurt by an action, and the act of moving money around really doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense because you can send money via Gmail very, very simply, and Bitcoin works under essentially the same principles, just I guess they didn't, local Bitcoins or the person who's selling the Bitcoins didn't jump through all the hoops.
How do you send money through Gmail?
Oh, it works kind of like PayPal.
Are you talking about like Google Wallet or something?
Not exactly. It's off to the side on Gmail, and you can just put, send money. It's an option. It's been there for about a year.
Wow, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, but that's the point, is that, okay, so one person went through the hoops and the other didn't. So the action itself, there's nothing wrong with it. Mm-hmm. It's just because you didn't pay the piper. It's because you didn't pay homage to to your overlords.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You didn't ask for the right permission slip or license or whatever, and government wants everybody to ask their permission to do anything.
Right.
And people who are going on local Bitcoins and doing Bitcoin transactions, by and large, they're not bad guys. They're not hurting anybody. Right? And they're certainly not hurting anybody simply by changing Bitcoins and dollars into one another. But they're taking such a risk because that's considered a criminalized act. I saw an article today saying money laundering is the new thought crime. And that's really what it is.
Yeah, I agree. And really, the takeaway for me with this story is that if you're doing a local Bitcoin transaction, because you're not going to stop people. Mm-hmm. Russia banned the transmission of Bitcoin, and so what? People are going to do it anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty silly.
Yeah, but the takeaway here is that if you are doing a local Bitcoin transaction and the person starts telling you, yeah, I'm going to go on Silk Road later tonight with this and all that, just run away. Don't offer them the Bitcoins. Go.
Yeah, you got to protect yourself. And I mean, even going on the Silk Road and buying drugs for personal consumption, talk about another non-crime,
Oh, absolutely.
It's not what I'm interested in doing, but I don't see anyone being hurt there.
Not at all. Not at all. So this is pretty important, to learn about. And I think the government is trying to make examples out of certain people. I mean, that's why these laws exist.
Well, that just says to me that when something is starting to get a lot of traction, it's getting really successful, like Bitcoin, we're in the Gandhi scale now, right? Gandhi said first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. Now we're at the fighting point with Bitcoin.
Right.
It sounds like. So just something to be aware of. Everybody, please be careful out there. Don't believe Agent Smith when he tells you he's looking for a way to change $1 million into Bitcoin, no questions asked.
Yeah.
or whatever he wants to hook up. Anyway, and speaking of hookups, Brian, I don't know who this celebrity is, but there was a celebrity who was on a radio show recently. Her name's Lauren Conrad. Apparently she has a popular website.
Okay.
And she was on some radio show, and somebody asked her, what's your favorite position? And it sounds like they were talking about a sex position, right? And
I see.
She got asked this question, and she gave a pretty clever response. She said CEO.
Wait a minute. She's a woman?
Yes.
And she's saying she wants to be a CEO?
Well, yes.
Hold on. No. Get back in the kitchen there, little missy. What do you think this is, America?
Right. Obviously, you're joking.
Obviously.
But she said CEO, and, that's great. It's a very clever response. I almost want to steal it. But the way this was written about, everyone was kind of saying, you go, girl. Yeah, this is great that she totally stuffed it back in their face, and she don't need no man. She's an independent woman. And if I don't know, I kind of feel like that's missing the point a little bit.
Sure.
If she would have heard that question and been fine with it and said, oh yeah, I like doggy style.
Right.
That would have been fine too. If that was what her comfort level was, right? She has the choice to respond to that in any way she wants, but to kind of over the top praise her for saying CEO, it's almost like saying that, you can't be taken seriously in business and also enjoy sex or something like that.
Yeah, I had heard about this, and I got to admit,
the internet's talking about it. I don't know why
yeah.
There's a lot of important stuff going on that's not this, which
yeah, well, but even then, the idea that you should be paying attention to other things, I don't know, value is subjective, so whatever's important to you is important to you.
Fair enough.
But I think powerful women are sexy, but no one's talking about that because it seems like everybody's just terrified of mentioning sex in this whole situation, and that somehow it was so offensive to be asked, what exactly, what is your favorite position? Someone asked me that, I wouldn't be offended. Quite frankly, even if it was out of the blue. Now, of course, if you are uncomfortable...
It might be hard to choose. I mean...
Oh, yeah, it'd be very hard to choose.
How could you pick just one?
Right, but I mean, that's one of the points of, feminism, which I think a lot of people latched onto this, for that, is that you get beyond this point to where a woman can talk about whatever the hell she wants to talk about.
Exactly.
And
I think there are lots of people who heard this and thought, well, she's a feminist because she's saying that she wants to be the CEO, and she turned that question on its head. And really, when we get to true gender equality, any answer to that question would be okay.
Right.
It would be okay whether she said CEO or whether she said doggy,
Right.
As long as it was her genuine choice.
Yeah, and it's important, I think, to delineate or to differentiate between equality and equal worth. Mm-hmm. Those are two very different things.
Yeah.
Okay. And equal worth is what actually people are kind of going for. And that equal worth means is that women can talk to each other and talk about, hey, what's our actual favorite position? It's okay to talk about that. It was almost shaming in that, boy, if a woman talked openly about sex and not about rising to the top,
yeah, then she's setting
did
all
something
women
wrong.
back. Yeah.
No, not at all.
No. Anyway, it sounds like we still have a long way to go.
We do, but that's all right. That's why we're here.
Exactly.
Sex and Science Hour.
And there is more coming up here on Sex and Science Hour. Stay tuned. Hey, Brian, what's that funny sticker over your laptop webcam? I was trying to spy on you while you were in the shower, but now I can't.
See, that's why I have it. And it's from EFF.org.
EFF, what's that?
It's the Electronic Frontier Foundation, totally donor-funded organization that fights for internet freedom, privacy.
Wow, that sounds great. So EFF.org, I support internet freedom and privacy, and maybe you do too.
Yeah, and you can support them with Bitcoin.
The Electronic Frontier Foundation at EFF.org. Sex and Science Hour is part of the Let's Talk Bitcoin network, and we are so excited.
Wait a minute. What's Bitcoin?
What's Bitcoin?
What's Bitcoin?
Well, you'll have to listen to Let's Talk Bitcoin to find out. It's a twice-weekly podcast, and you can find it at letstalkbitcoin.com.
Okay, I gotta know.
Yeah, you really should probably get on that.
It has a whole network?
Yeah, we're part of it.
How did I not know about this?
You must have missed the memo that we were on their network. Anyway, now back to Sex and Science Hour. Welcome back to Sex and Science Hour. We have some interesting stuff to talk about in this second segment of the program.
Hopefully we'll always have interesting stuff to talk about.
Yes, we do hope so. But I want to just put in a quick plug for our email address too, because I think as the show matures, we're going to start doing a lot more listener interactivity on the air. So we want to hear your emails. We want to hear your questions. If there's something you want us to talk about, send it to us. You can email us at show@sexandsciencehour.com.
Yeah, I love to interact with listeners. It's one of the joys. In podcasting and radio in general, I've met so many great people that really has genuinely made it all worth it to do.
I admit I have a little problem with keeping up with my email.
Well, that's the thing. I can't always respond to them, but I've met great people.
It's true. Yeah, you do meet cool people that way. So, get in touch with us. The email address goes to both of us. So hopefully one of us will take action.
Yeah, we're very open, really non-judgmental kind of people.
I think people will know that if they hear our other podcast too.
That's
For
true.
Sure. Okay, so Brian, you can no longer buy tobacco at CVS.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I guess they announced this week that they are going to stop selling tobacco products. And the CEO said something like, it just feels really disingenuous to be selling all these heart medications and all these prescription drugs and all these medicines that sick people need, and then on the other hand turning around and selling cigarettes to them.
Okay, I think I'd heard about this, and it's like a 9-month plan. They're not going to stop for another 9 months.
Okay.
So I guess,
geez, if something's that bad, why don't you stop it right away?
Yeah, you should. Come on, cold turkey. This is it. You can't do cold turkey.
Right.
Not even a store can do cold turkey with
cigarettes. They're going to need the gum or something. Yeah.
Well, I guess I have two thoughts on that. One is this might be the most clever marketing scheme I've ever heard, especially if it's going to take 9 months for them to finally enact it. That means there's 9 months where, this is what's on the mind is CVS, CVS won't sell cigarettes. And I don't smoke, and so I guess that's why I say I don't know how, and a business can more or less choose what they want to sell.
Are you saying they're doing this to have a blowout on their cigarettes and they're going to...
I don't know if it's a blowout, but but maybe they're going to, maybe it's, especially if it's 9 months, maybe it's a test period to see if they get increased sales because of it. And if they don't, maybe they'll change their mind.
What do you mean, increased cigarette sales?
No, increased sales in general to see if they're going to get the non-smoking crowd to start buying in.
Oh,
yes, I'm going to shop here because they are against smoking.
All the do-gooders are going to shop there because they want the smokers to not be able to buy cigarettes.
Yeah, so if they get an increase of sales, and they'll know what it's from, if it's from not buying cigarettes or it's from people buying cigarettes like crazy while they're there, one or the other is going to tell them how to act in 9 months. Which, that's pretty clever, give them a couple quarters to figure things out. That's plenty of time for a business to know its, next 5-year model.
Well, that's an interesting way to put it. I hadn't thought of it that way, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is that I kind of applaud, their stance on health, because I don't smoke because I care about my health. People can have differing opinions on that. That's how I feel about it. But if you're that concerned about health, are you going to get rid of the alcohol while you're at it?
Do they sell alcohol there?
Well, I guess it depends on the state. Some states don't allow you to do
Probably
that.
Depends
but,
on the store, too.
I can say, where I grew up in New York.
Their permission slip from the government, right?
Yeah. I mean, in New York, you could buy alcohol at CVS.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, and I'm sure there's other states where that's possible.
Yeah, are they going to stop selling Snickers bars too? If they're going to get that kind of nannying, dare I say, about what people do with their, and this is coming from a non-smoker too. I don't smoke, but
right.
If they're going to start making value judgments about what people should be doing with their health,
how far do you go?
How far do they go? Exactly.
Right. And I mean, also CVS is known for selling a lot of quote unquote kooky TV products. Whatever those may be. I mean, are they going?
Shake weight?
The shake weight. Oh boy,
you had a shake weight.
I bought a shake weight.
What did you think of it?
It didn't do the deed. It didn't.
What was the deed?
The deed. Well, the deed was to get bigger arm muscles, of course, and I think pectorals were a part of it too. But it's the payoff wasn't there. Or at least it wasn't fast enough. They're making some pretty wild claims in how it works, and quite frankly, I think my forearms could get just as big doing the natural shake weight. So
the natural wrist and forearms workout.
That's right, the wrist and forearms. So
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need the shake weight.
You don't need the shake weight.
No.
It doesn't.
That's called a body weight workout there.
Yeah. Admittedly, when the commercials were running, that was kind of like hokey and hot at the same time when the women were using shake weight, and then when they came out with the shake weight for men.
Oh my God, those were so funny.
That was pretty funny.
I think that was genius of them for a marketing scheme.
Oh, I think so
I don't even know
too.
if they meant it that way, but I'm pretty sure they did.
I think so. It started on MTV.
There was definite innuendo there.
Yeah. Even with the men, and it was great. I don't know, whatever. I thought it was fine. I was willing. I mean, I bought one. I was like, okay, yeah, what the hell?
It's always good to support creative, thinly veiled sexual innuendo filled marketing, huh?
I firmly agree. Like our show.
Yes, exactly. We're following the same brilliant marketing ploy as the shake weight. Only $39.99 as seen it on TV. But anyway, with this cigarettes thing, they are a private company, so of course they can do whatever they want, right? But I'm pretty sure there are still some people who are going to really complain about this.
Yeah, I imagine
feel like
so.
They've been unfairly targeted.
Sure, but then they can go to Walgreens. I mean, that's
Sure. Yeah, I think the same. I don't think this is going to help anyone quit smoking. Honestly, I think the same people who were going to buy cigarettes are just going to buy them somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, look, not even Ayn Rand could come up with a good excuse for smoking, and she was the queen of coming up with good excuses.
Oh, but it's the fire of the mind, Brian.
Yeah.
It's the eternal flame of the mind.
I got an eternal flame.
Well, speaking of things that relate to your heart, smoking is bad for your heart, supposedly, right?
Sure.
And not supposedly, it is bad for your heart. But anyway.
Well, some people would say it's all propaganda.
That's right. They would say that.
Whatever.
Speaking of heart stuff, there is a Bitcoin wallet that you can unlock with your heartbeat. Did you hear about this?
I heard a little bit about this, but I didn't know everything about it. Either way, I'm scared.
Why are you scared? Because this sounds like it solves a really important problem in security, actually, which is like, people say, well, if you can unlock something with your fingerprint, then someone's just going to chop off your finger, right? Or if you can unlock something with your eyeball, someone's going to chop off your eyeball. Or at least take a picture of your fingerprint or something like that, or a picture of your eyeball and use that. But with your heartbeat, I mean, your heart has to be beating to unlock it. So,
okay, so is it running off of? I was under the impression it ran off of this unique pattern sound of your heart.
It does. It actually runs off of your electric readings that are generated by your heart. So it's basically an ECG.
Okay. So, because my concern is that if in any way it's running off of the sound, and even this, I wonder, if this could be cheated somehow, because if you have smartphones that can literally hear the sounds of your computer that would reveal your PGP email key, okay, from your smartphone that the FBI can use to listen to that. If you have your smartphone on you, they could record the sound, the unique, wonderful sound that your heart makes, and then they could just replicate that and, open up the wallet. I mean, this is really forward thinking, but it's something so untested, I would not want to trust my wealth to it yet.
It might be good as a two-factor thing. I see what you're saying, Brian, and I agree. I mean, if you can record a sound like a heartbeat or the sound of a PGP key being generated, which is terrifying.
I mean, that's such a unique little sound. I mean, when you think about what it takes to make a PGP key.
Yeah, but if you can record that, you can also somehow record someone's unique ECG signature,
right?
And somehow use some kind of device to generate a signature that's very similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, and also you have the Fitbit, you have Nike Fuel.
Oh, yeah, this is your thing about these biometric devices that are, you need an app to make you healthier.
Yeah, but this is my point.
You need to wear this device to make you healthier.
Right, but this is my point, is that I feel like all the signals that this wallet is going to use for security is already being recorded by 10 million devices that you're already you might be wearing. And I don't this kind of security doesn't solve anything. I think
well, what we've seen with biometric security is that it is hackable, and every kind of biometric security gets hacked.
Yeah, every kind.
From the safe, like I remember I was looking at a biometric safe that you can unlock with your fingerprint, and the Amazon reviews were like, my 14-year-old kid figured out how to open this safe within a day of us having it. Yeah. And there were guns in there and stuff like that. And they did it by just holding, like you can make it basically dust the fingerprints or something like that, or you can hold up a mirror to it and it'll rescan the fingerprint that was previously on there. So you have to wipe it off every time so you don't get the oils on there. And it just seems like a hassle. But what if you combine a biometric thing with like a password that only you know?
Well, that might work. Like you said, I think two-factor authentication is a good idea. That would work. But my whole concern with encryption in general is that it's really, there's always escalation. Okay, because people will just take it to the next level. So what you really need, I mean, encryption's good to be an annoyance, be it to bad actors or to the NSA or GCHQ or whoever. Okay, you're never really going to totally beat them. It's just good to give them a hard time. What really needs to happen is an absolute change of mind where people say, no, we don't need an NSA, or no, we don't need a GCHQ. We don't need to spy on people anymore. We don't, everybody's human. We don't need to feel safer, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
That's really what has to happen.
I agree with you. And how can we make ourselves safe from creepy dudes on Google+?
Oh, boy. This is the biggest open secret on the internet.
It really is. And that's why I wanted to talk about it on this show, because nobody talks about this. But if you ask around, people will confirm that this is true.
Yeah.
And what I'm talking about is like on Google+, okay, it's a little known social network, Facebook's the giant, Twitter, everybody goes on those. And yeah, you get creepers on those sites. But what I'm talking about is like, there are so many strange men that message me on Google+. And I don't want to turn off the chat feature because I do want to chat with my legit friends and do Google Hangouts, and I have conference calls and business deals and stuff on there.
Oh, yeah, and Hangouts is taking over so much of even SMS on your phones.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just turn really it off, really. And I don't want to not circle certain people because then I'm kind of discriminating and... but it's just weird. I get messages and...
Well, Google's not addressing this.
No, they're not.
That's the real problem. Twitter had the same issue. Twitter tried to address it, didn't really work. Like they put the abuse report button right on the tweet, so that you could get to it quickly. This is the fault of Google. They need to address this issue somehow, and they've yet to. And their Hangouts app, in my opinion, has always been a mess.
It really kind of intrudes on your phone and stuff. It really gets in your face.
Yeah, it gets in your face. It doesn't have, the delete options have gotten better just recently. Beforehand, they weren't. And then you just, the other thing too is that Google Plus in particular is one of those sites that around the world is available. Google Plus is the only social network that you can openly use in China. Okay? Because of that.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, because of that, a lot of people don't, this is their first experience of social media, and I don't think they know a lot of the etiquette and protocols that we have developed around the rest of the world.
That's very possible. Honestly, I feel conflicted about saying this, but it's universally, it is Middle Eastern or Indian guys that I get these messages from.
Sure.
And I just block them. Some of them are rather nice. Some of them just say hi a bunch of millions of times. Some of them say nastier things, like things that they would like to do with me.
Yeah, they just come right out and say it.
Yeah, and I never respond. I always just block them, but it keeps happening. So Well, blocking them doesn't seem like a solution. You know what I mean?
No.
Like blocking each individual one, that really doesn't seem like, and I don't feel like giving them an etiquette lesson or anything.
No,
like
Google
that,
needs to come up with some kind of spam filter. That's really what this is asking for, just like with emails. So it's not a new technology. They're just being lazy and not putting it in. Mm. And you're not the only one. Like I said, this has been talked about on shows like Twit, where, women have come right out, women that were guests on the show, and said, yeah, this is crazy. And Leo Laporte said, you are absolutely brave for being a woman and going on Google Plus. So sure, it's out there.
Ladies, do you get this too? Show at sexandsciencehour.com. I'm curious. I'm really curious. And there is more coming up here on the show. Stay tuned. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to our new show. Yay!
Yeah, I mean, you already love it,
Hopefully.
But
if we're doing our job, they love it. And if you love it, it would be great if you could help us spread the word, because it is a new show. So not too many people have heard the good word of Sex and Science Hour. Maybe you could go around and knock on some doors and say that you have some good news for people.
Yeah, you don't have to carry a book for this either, but maybe that would help, in a white shirt and tie. And
yeah, look presentable. Maybe you could carry around a little tablet instead. And help people subscribe to our podcast feed.
Yeah, and just, have you heard about Sex and Science Hour?
That would be wonderful. So yeah, if you could just go ahead and do that. Sunday morning is the ideal time to be doing this, and we'd really appreciate it. Tell them to go to sexandsciencehour.com, and it's really for their eternal salvation. I mean, you're really doing people a favor by doing this. So.
Or you could just share it on social media.
Right, and we do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And now back to the show.
Yoo-hoo.
Welcome back to Sex and Science Hour.
It's my favorite hour.
My favorite hour too, or quickly becoming. So we've only done one show so far. So
yeah, in fact, it hasn't even been an hour.
No, it's
yet.
like 2/3 of a show. So there's
God, I'm such a liar.
More fun yet to come. No, you're not. I have to thank Roll Music. That's the artist that makes these chiptunes that you're hearing as our music beds on the show. And chiptunes, of course, is this genre of very distinctive genre of music that you're hearing.
Yeah, it's meant to replicate 8-bit music. They usually use Game Boys to make it, where they put in the special cartridge, and it allows them to make these various tones. Or I'm sure they use software on their computer, too, that can just emulate all this sound.
Yeah, you were telling me about how people make chiptunes, and there's an actual cartridge that you can plug into a Game Boy.
Yep, LCDJ.
And sometimes they do this live in concerts. They'll line up a bunch of Game Boys and...
Yeah, they'll have a full-on concert.
Does it only work on older ones, or can you do it on
No,
are there still Game Boys? I don't even know.
Oh yeah, you can use it on. You can do it on newer ones, but they prefer the old Game Boys because they're a little more solid. They're made in the 80s.
Of course, they don't make them like they used to, right?
In this case, sadly, they're right. Yeah.
Wow, the things people do when they're not eating, huh?
When they're not eating. Yeah, I don't know if they get a little stage fright, so they don't want to eat. That way they don't puke before they do it. But I don't know, maybe they should do intermittent fasting.
Exactly, and that's what we're about to talk about. So, Brian, I've been reading a book called Eat, Stop, Eat, and it's about something called intermittent fasting, which is this idea that you can go, humans can go weeks without food or months without food, not without water.
You have to drink.
You got to drink every, at least... You really can't go more than a couple days without water before you start to, keel over and die.
Right.
But without food, you can last quite a while. And there seems to be this idea, like in modern culture, where you got to eat every 3 hours, right? If you've had breakfast at 10 o'clock and it's 12 o'clock, you're starving for lunch, right?
Right.
And really, it's probably, like, if you look at actual human physiology, it's probably more social cues and the expectation that there's going to be another meal that makes us hungry than actual hunger. Like, when you feel hungry most of the time, your body is not lacking nutrients or calories. It's more just that you are getting these environmental cues that tell you to expect a meal. Well, it's lunchtime. I'm supposed to be hungry.
Yeah, sure. Or you're seeing commercials constantly just like, hitting you with eat, food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it can be really bad out there, like with the advertisements and stuff. People see hundreds of ads a day, and a lot of them are for food. And it's hard to, when you see food you want to eat, it's kind of hard to look at food and not get hungry, or at least think you're hungry.
Right.
And this is kind of like what this book was saying, that, it's okay. You're not going to die if you go a day or 2 or 3 without eating.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've kind of been experimenting with. I read Martin Birkin's blog, Lean Gains, and I heard about this book, Eat, Stop, Eat, and I kind of follow the paleo nutritional scene, and I've been into fitness and bodybuilding and stuff. And so I kind of keep up with this stuff.
Sure,
and
same here.
I've been kind of experimenting with intermittent fasting for several years now, actually. I had a period of time where I only ate once a day, and I just ate a big dinner, and that was it. And, it worked out pretty well for me. At the time, I was working outside of the home. I have since made a career change, but at the time I was working at a workplace, and it was actually really helpful because I didn't have to worry about breaking for lunch or eating breakfast. I could just get up and go. And then when my day was over, had a nice big dinner and relaxed and did it all again the next day. I did kind of get hungry if I couldn't eat my big dinner right when I wanted to, though. Like after 24 hours, I would get a little hungry. But so I kind of adjusted that, and then I started doing kind of 2 meals a day.
Well, your body made its own clock of when it wanted to eat, and it wasn't. And it's important to make the distinction that you weren't necessarily hungry, just your body got used to eating that big dinner every night.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really kind of freeing to realize that if you don't eat, you're not going to die. Nothing's going to happen to you.
Oh yeah,
if you go a day without eating.
Yeah, I did this for over 48 hours just recently, and
that was probably like a short fast to a hunter-gatherer, where we're evolved from, right? We've got these hunter-gatherer genetics that we had for living like that for millions of years, and just recently was it that we started to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, we're only 10 to 6,000 years removed, as best we know, from that. So that's not enough time for evolution to really take a new course where we need 3 meals a day.
Yeah, I was just surprised at how productive I was. I tried this recently this week. I did a day of fasting, and I hadn't done that in a while, and it felt really good, actually. I did feel a little bit hungry, but it wasn't so bad that I couldn't concentrate on other things. And I actually ended up getting a ton done. I actually did some work for the show to get ready for it. I got a lot of other stuff done too. And I just thought it was kind of cool. So figured we'd bring it up on the show.
Yeah, supposedly it can make your metabolism work a little faster. I don't know. I'll admit that like the second day late at night, I started to get kind of a headache.
Yeah.
But other than that, maybe if I did it more often, maybe I wouldn't get that headache. I don't know. So it's interesting.
There's this guy, Rob Wolf. He's big in the paleo community. And he actually did a reality TV show or something where he went out into the woods, and he wasn't going to eat unless he could hunt food. And he was camping with some friends or something like that. And it took him like 4 days to hunt an animal and be able to eat it. And he said like he like cried when he killed the animal, because it was so, he had no idea when he was going to be able to eat, and it was 4 days and he was super hungry.
Yeah, such a powerful moment.
Yeah. So I just thought that was really interesting, and that was probably a pretty common experience back in the day.
Yeah, right? I mean, you'd think they would have been a little bit better at it, but by and large, still common, I would assume.
Yeah. Anyway, so speaking of evolution, there's been an article that came out this week called 22 Messages from Creationists to Evolutionists.
All right, wait a minute. Creationists will tell you that we were never hunter-gatherers.
Oh, right, silly me.
We were fruitarians
Man
first.
didn't come from monkeys.
Right, we were fruitarians, and then as soon as we got kicked out of Eden, we were tilling the soil.
Right.
So that just didn't happen.
Too bad there's a lot of evidence that that's not what happened. But apparently there was a debate between Bill Nye, the science guy, and Ken Ham, who is like you know Ken Ham, right? I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, I do know Ken Ham. And me speaking as a staunch atheist, the guy's brilliant.
Okay,
You know,
and he's a Christian apologist?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. He runs a group called Answers in Genesis, which is...
Answers in Genesis.
Right, which they're trying to scientifically prove that evolution didn't occur. Of course, what they're really doing is just poking holes. But I'll admit, poking those holes is really important, okay?
I think it can be helpful, because it shows it shows, maybe some weak points or things that people have trouble believing anyway.
Sure,
when they hear about evolution, sure.
Right, I mean, with science, we don't even run off of Newton's gravitic theories anymore. We have new ones, but if we just said, well, we're not going to question science, we're not going to question Newton's gravity here, we would have never gotten to the point, probably, where we're launching things into space.
Sure, yeah, and I think it's helpful to hear from people who have challenges, but it also can be kind of funny when they just don't get it. Like,
yeah.
Okay, so this article that came out, it's people that are making memes of themselves. They're like, take a picture of themselves, and they're holding up a sign that tells you why they, are skeptics, so-called, of evolution, right?
Yeah.
So one of them says, if man came from monkeys, why are there still monkeys?
Oh, boy.
It's supposed to be like this logical hammer, but it's just not.
But okay, granted it's not, but one of the things that a lot of people will bring up is the coelacanth, which is a fish. A coelacanth is a fish that looks like it has real arms, okay, or legs. Whatever. It looks like it has limbs of some kind.
Yep.
And so, we have fossil evidence of the coelacanth, and evolutionists all agree this thing's, millions of years old. The problem is, a few decades ago, they found more coelacanth, and they haven't changed at all. So, creationists like Ken Ham would come out and say, wait a minute, if things are evolving all the time, why is this still here? This doesn't make any sense. Now, of course, the answer to that...
If God created all the animals, then why are there extinct animal bones in the ground?
Well, that's the thing, is that these are the holes that they poke in, is they say, well, look, if you took a fossil, if you put it in saline solution, okay, a la salt water, a la the ocean, the dates on it are totally screwed up.
Yeah, because salt water interferes with the carbon dating, right?
Exactly. And also, you have other cases too, like Mount St. Helens, where there was, tree nurseries around that essentially you knew the trees were only 2 years old, but when the ash from the volcano went over the trees, and solidified, you said that, and you dated the tree, it would say that the tree was thousands or millions of years old when it wasn't. You have absolute proof. So these holes are interesting to poke in, I think. Now I firmly believe in evolution, that it occurred. It's a fact of life.
Sure.
But these are interesting.
It is always good to question everything and to examine points of weakness in the evidence or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's also important to remember that poking holes in a theory that's generally solid doesn't prove your other theory.
Yeah, right.
You need evidence to support the other theory, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because all of those holes pale in comparison to proving that there's a God.
Sure. Yeah, that's the ultimate hole.
Yeah. It's like, okay, fine. Evolution didn't occur. How did it happen? Oh, by God. You want to give me the
There's a
proof
meme
for that?
I'm just looking at a meme here that says, how do you explain a sunset if there, T-H-E-I-R, is no God?
Oh, boy. So
how do you explain a sunset if there is no God?
So did they just spell it wrong?
Yeah.
That's kind of a cheap shot.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Some people just can't spell, but
it's true. I'm sure there are lots of atheists who can't spell. That's totally true.
Yeah.
But how do you explain a sunset? easily. It's the rise into the earth.
Yeah, exactly.
It's spinning.
It doesn't make any sense. This thing just comes out of nowhere. What is that? How do we even know that's called a sun? I don't know what's real.
I like this one here. It says, I believe in the Big Bang Theory. God said it, and bang, it happened.
Well, you see, okay, but here's something creationists have too. Because you have the Higgs boson, okay, you have the God particle, which is very terribly named. But how the God particle, which is how everything started, how the Big Bang occurred, all this business, how it started, was a collision of light and sound. And so a lot of Christians will say, see, it says God said, let there be light. So God was speaking sound, and then light came in, and that created the universe. And so a lot of people
fits. How convenient.
Yeah, a lot of people would say that, but they're not. I mean, that's an oversimplification of science.
Always adapt it after the fact.
It's an oversimplification.
Whatever you want.
Sure, it's an oversimplification, but hey, it's halfway right.
Well, like one of the memes actually said something like, "Can you believe in the Big Bang Theory without faith?" And actually, that's not a terrible point.
No, it's not, because being questioned.
Most people don't understand how the scientific theory behind the Big Bang Theory or whatever. They're just kind of like, well, that makes more sense than God, so yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple theories out now that are not the Big Bang. They're alternative to the Big Bang by respected scientists that I read them and I go, yeah, I'm open to that.
Right, and that's kind of the point of science, is being open to disproving things that can be disproven, right?
Right.
But a lot of things, if somebody says, well, God did it, it's hard to,
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
This is how I feel. You can't disprove that, right? If you say, I feel that God did this, okay, you can't falsify that. You can't disprove that, right?
No, right.
That
but
doesn't
then it's
really
not
fall
science.
under the realm of science. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Here's an interesting one. What purpose do you think we are here for if you do not believe in salvation? Well, of course, maybe there is no purpose. There doesn't have to be a purpose.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's really it. I mean,
and you wanting there to be a purpose doesn't make God true either.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the purpose in life, humans are a very different form of life. I mean, your purpose is to, one could say for the other 99% of life on the planet, their purpose is to, act on their instincts. Okay? They don't have choice. Mm-hmm. They act on their instincts.
Well, speaking of acting on instincts, we're short on time, but I really wanted to squeeze this in because it's actually really funny. So this is a good note to end on. There's a Bitcoin exchange, Mt. Gox, and a lot of people are upset with them because they've had some issues with processing their customers' withdrawals, to the point where people are, there's been rumors for 6 months that they're insolvent.
Yeah.
First, they had trouble with dollar withdrawals or fiat currency withdrawals, and they claimed it's regulatory issues. Okay, fine, you can believe that. Now they're having trouble with Bitcoin withdrawals, and I guess there was a guy who decided to actually, he's from Australia, he decided to actually go to the Mt. Gox headquarters and just stay there until he was able to talk to the CEO. And he did a little protest. He was standing outside holding a sign that says these people ripped me off or something like that. And he said the employees were inviting him in for lunch and giving him beer and sandwiches.
I was just going to ask how'd that work out for him, but it looks like it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. And he posted this post on Reddit. It's totally hilarious. We'll link to it in the show notes. It seems legit because it could be completely made up, but he claimed that he went to a local Bitcoin meetup, that he ran into somebody nearby that invited him to a Bitcoin meetup.
Good thing he didn't get arrested.
There were a couple people, there were a couple people at the meetup who posted on this Reddit thread and said, yeah, I saw him at the meetup. He was definitely there.
Wow. So it's all true, this whole story.
Well, it could be fake, but it's damn entertaining. I'll have to say that much. So this guy confronted one of the higher ups at Mt. Gox, and he confronted the CEO of Mt. Gox, Mark Karpeles, and he said he was asking questions, what is causing these withdrawal delays? My Bitcoins are stuck in the exchange. He sounded very polite. And the guy was responding with just these politician answers. It's a technical problem. Well, okay, what's the technical problem? We can't talk about that for security reasons. Okay, well, just try to explain it to. No, first they said, well, we can't explain that to you. It's very technical. Okay, well, try to explain it to me. Well, we can't for security reasons. So it just kept the goalpost
bait and switch
kept kind of shifting. And they kept denying that it was any kind of liquidity problem, but man, it was a kind of a comedic thing. Of course, it's not funny for the people who have money stuck in that exchange.
Well, that's my question. Did this guy get what he wanted?
No, when he was standing outside their offices, one of the employees said, "Good news, we've sorted out your account. Go and check it." So the guy goes back to his hotel room. He drops the protest for a minute, goes back to his hotel room and checks his account. And they hadn't sorted it out. They just moved his Bitcoins from being in transit, stuck in transit, to back into his account in Mt. Gox. And he couldn't get them out of Mt. Gox, and that was the original problem, so that the problem wasn't solved.
I've seen this time and time again in the finance industry, where when people start talking like this and pulling tricks like that,
it sounds like Lehman Brothers, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like Lehman Brothers. It's like a whole slew of things where someone's about to go out of business.
Yeah, well, they've been losing. I mean, this exchange has been losing volume for a long time.
I thought they were going to take Litecoin. That would have been huge.
That was just a rumor in the troll box on BTCE, I'm afraid.
I thought they sent out an email, didn't they? No?
I
could be wrong.
I think they
fine.
tweeted it or something, maybe, but they've got other things.
I think
to deal
that
with.
could have changed everything.
Okay, Brian, don't stop believing.
Well, I don't like them. I mean, they've been. Gox is a mess.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a good kind of lesson, And the squeaky wheel does get some grease. I think it's an interesting use of the protest medium, if you will. People say protesting doesn't do anything. But in this case, it kind of did. He's drawing a lot of attention to this. And actually, like a day after this guy started the protest, they issued a statement saying, "Look, we've got this problem. Here's what's going on." And they of course, they didn't really address it, but they at least made a statement. So, baby steps, small steps to big change, all that, right?
Yeah, I think they're just going to go out. And I only hope they don't go out. They don't take the money and run. That's my concern.
It may not be there.
Well, that's the thing, is this could all be, kind of Ponzi, pyramid, whatever.
Yeah.
Some kind of scheme.
Yeah, there are lots of other places where you can trade Bitcoins, though. So, it used to be that this was the biggest Bitcoin exchange.
Sure.
This was like the only game in town if you wanted to trade Bitcoins. But that is not true. More options are opening up every single day. And, of course, there are always the decentralized options, but just don't get caught.
Yeah, keep as much control of your money as you can.
Don't sell your Bitcoins to federal agents. And stay safe out there. This is going to do it for us this week. Email us, show@sexandsciencehour.com.
Please email us.
We'll see you next time.
Look, if they don't email us, we're just going to have to talk about what we want to talk about, and I don't even know what I want to talk about.
Would that be so tragic?
No, not really.
Okay, see you next week. You've just heard Sex and Science Hour.
You can connect with us at sexandsciencehour.com.
Game over. Play again next week.